If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe to Learn to Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are tuning in. If you love what you hear, consider leaving a 5-star review, as it will help other podcasters just like you discover this show. You'll find the show notes from this episode at learn2pod.com. Welcome back to Learn to Podcast, the show that will teach you everything that you need to know to create, grow, and monetize a successful podcast. I'm your host, Scott Wyden Kivowitz. In this episode, we're going to talk about exploring advanced techniques. This means learning more about podcast production and editing and experimenting with different formats and styles. So why is this important? There are a few reasons why exploring advanced techniques is important. First, it can help you to improve the quality of your podcast. By learning more about your podcast production and editing, you can create a more polished and professional sounding show. Second, exploring advanced techniques can help you to create more creative and engaging content. By experimenting with different formats and styles, you can find new ways to tell your stories and connect with your listeners. And finally, exploring advanced techniques can help you to stand out from the competition. By mastering advanced podcast production and editing techniques, you can create a podcast that is unique and memorable. Here are a few advanced techniques that you can explore. Audio sweetening. Audio sweetening is a process of adding audio effects to your recording, such as reverb, delay, and panning. This can help to improve the sound quality of your podcast and create a more immersive experience for your listeners. Narration editing. Narration editing is the process of polishing and refining your narration. This can involve removing filler words like ums and uhs, correcting pronunciation errors, and improving the flow of your narration. Sound design. Sound design is the process of creating and using sound effects to enhance your podcast. This can involve using sound effects to create atmosphere, support for your narration, and adding humor to your show. Live podcasting and video podcasting. Live podcasting and video podcasting are two advanced podcasting formats that can be used to create a more interactive and engaging experience for your listeners. There are a number of ways to explore advanced techniques. One way is to read books and articles on podcast production and editing. Another way is to watch tutorials and online courses. You can, of course, find many helpful resources on the websites of podcasting hosting platforms and podcast production companies. There are so many podcasts themselves that also teach these sort of techniques. Once you have learned some basic advanced techniques, you can start to experiment with different formats and styles. There are no rules when it comes to podcasting, so be creative and have fun. By exploring advanced techniques, you can improve the quality of your podcast, create more creative content, and stand out from the competition. I encourage you to experiment with different advanced techniques and see what works best for you and your podcast. The possibilities are endless. We are all about creativity, innovation, and a touch of playfulness here at Learn to Podcast. We love building this amazing community of ours, and we've been brainstorming some fun nicknames to call our fantastic listeners. And yes, it's official. You're not just listeners. You're part of the crew. Greetings, Podfinders. That's short for Podcast Pathfinders. Thanks for tuning in to Learn to Podcast as we lead the way through the podcasting wilderness. Learn to Podcast does not currently have a sponsor or service to earn money from the show, but we cannot build our show without 3 incredible tools. That's why, in lieu of sponsorship, we want to share these incredible tools with you: Descript, Cast Magic, and Transistor FM. These products and services are what make Learn to Podcast possible. Check out our affiliate links in the show notes to learn more about them. And if you sign up, we do make a small commission. Thanks again, Podfinders, for tuning in.